Holy hell, I feel so bad now. I feel like, oh my God.
I feel like you need to
We
pay
have
her for this
really
session.
exposed you.
Yeah,
I
so
came to be interviewed, but you're the one exposed.
Clearly, the turns have tabled, Sam. The turns have tabled. Wow. Yo, what's up, and welcome to episode 30 of the 30% podcast. And today we have a special one because we are joined by Maija.
Hey, yo.
Hey, Maija.
Hey, and it's so
You're the fuel to be fired. Did you ever listen to the song? You're the fuel to be fired. Did you ever listen to Jules? Give that
I know.
song.
Maija, Maija,
That's much better.
Maija.
Much better.
Sam looks mortified. Why do you look mortified, Sam?
Why? Every single time we have guests, you refuse. I think you just refuse to introduce me.
Oh, and we have Sam.
There we
Let's
go.
clap it up for Sam.
Give it
Keep your
up.
claps. I don't need it.
I'm so sorry. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, we're joined by Maija. Maija, as you know, is from Kipepeo Agency.
Oh, so
Well,
you don't know.
founded.
They don't know.
Kipepeo.
No one knows.
You know.
The reason she's here is so that we
we can talk
they
about
know.
this. I feel like our audience would know that Maija. Well, they're here to find out, right? Yes, we're here to
Let
find
them
out.
know. Let them find out.
So, Maija, how have you been? How are you?
I'm great. I'm happy to be here joining you. Thanks for having me on the podcast. And I feel like it's so special because it's 30% podcast, episode
30th
30. And I'm
episode
30 years old. So it's 30, 30, 30.
Oh, for real?
Yeah,
That's-
it's definitely in
Clap it up.
alignment.
It's about to be a good one.
No, yeah.
Hopefully.
So I mean, we connected, and I mean, we attended the World Music Day. Thank you for the invite.
Of course.
I was telling Sam that's like the first time we've been invited somewhere as a media.
Oh, I'm
So we
glad we get to take your media pass virginity.
Yes. Oh gosh.
So it's just like it's so surreal because like now we're at a podcast and we do things together, and when we're there, it's like I have to switch on my media brain. I'm like, wait, I'm actually at an event. I'm gonna talk
Yeah.
about
What does a
this.
media person do differently from a normal person?
Well, they're observing. Like usually when you're out, you're just there to like really enjoy the event, listen to the music, but
Chill.
you're not really like documenting.
Yeah, and taking
Things.
note on like, oh, this went, this is what I can comment on about the event. Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, thank you for the invite. It was an amazing event. I loved seeing everyone. Bakhita, Groovy Jo, Liboi. I actually didn't know too much about Liboi, to be
Really?
honest.
You're missing out. Now you know
clearly-
about her.
Clearly.
Just,
She has her energy was
wait.
good. I like. I don't know if she get it, but I like when she stopped there.
When-
stopped
Oh.
She stopped everything. Like, no, the sound has to be right. We're not just.
The sound has to be
We're
perfect.
not just going
For,
here.
Yeah.
for me, when I see things like that, I'm like, this person is gonna go far in their career because like they're not afraid to be like to want things at a like a
and to
good
speak out.
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Yeah. So yeah, man. And then obviously there was the gender parity in music event.
Yeah,
as
we've been
well.
seeing a lot of each other this week.
Clearly, we have. This was destined to happen.
For sure.
Yeah, man. And then even our second interview was with Alfayo.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I feel like we're really intertwined. I don't know.
We're
There's
intertwined.
Like yeah, is it destined?
maybe you have the nectar that the Kipepeo keeps coming to get your little sweetness.
Exactly. So I don't know where to start. Sam, actually, we're still kind of new in podcasting. So there's one thing I've been looking at. It's do you start an interview like at the beginning, or do you start it like from where the person is now? Sam, have you ever like thought about this?
I think it's best when you just let it run.
Exactly, because this is me overthinking. So let's start at
Afam is our resident overthinker.
Yes, I am. I really am. So let's start at the beginning, I guess, and let's just get right into it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we could start with that. Like, let's do cliche. Tell us about yourself, man.
Tell us about Maija.
Tell us about Maija. Maija is someone who loves to be around beautiful things in life and believes that
Ooh.
arts can make the world a better place. That's why I have a degree in performing arts and social justice, because I believe in not only creating beautiful art for the aesthetic purpose, but also creating beautiful art that can change people's lives and make them feel they're part of something bigger. They can create their own future and empowering people. So yeah, that's what I really love. Maija is someone who loves to travel. I call myself a lifelong learner. I really love like learning new things and reading and connecting with people and having good conversation and discussion. What else about Maija? Maija has so many hobbies. I really like... I'm an only child, so I think that cultivated...
same.
Hey, okay, that's how we connect.
Only child energy
I think it
opposite from me
cultivates
here.
something in you when you're an only child, because you have to learn to entertain yourself.
100%.
And you have to learn to become outgoing and make friends, because you don't have like siblings to count on forever, you know? You have to make your own chosen family, if I can use that term. So yeah, I've always been someone who I'm really independent, but I also am quite outgoing.
Yeah.
But I would consider myself an ambivert. I also have times where I can... It's not that I do crave being alone sometimes, but I think I'm just so good at being alone and comfortable in being alone. I don't feel like there are some people who really don't like to be by themselves. I have friends who are like, oh, I'm sorry, I have to leave and leave you alone. And I'm like, it's totally fine. This is it's like homeostasis for me. It's normal to be
What
alone.
you're used to.
Yeah, so basically that is me in a nutshell. Another thing, I love astrology. I'm vegetarian, so I love cooking.
Wait, what's your sun sign?
I can tell you, I am...
Your moon sign and your rising?
Yes, good job. I'm a all air trio.
To become a lot better than this than last time. Did you go reading?
I can do birth chart readings, actually.
Oh,
So
wow.
Oh, okay.
I have a grand trine in air, which means my sun is Aquarius. Which are the revolutionaries, innovative thinking,
Oh, let's
being different
go.
than everyone. My moon is in Gemini, so that means I intellectualize my emotions, and that's, I think, why I love learning so much. That comes from that Gemini urge to love researching and communicating. And then I have a Libra rising. So Libra rising is like the sign of Venus, of beauty, of things. So Venus is my ruling planet because I'm a Libra rising. So being inspired by the beauty in life and also appreciating the beauty in others. Yeah.
Interesting. I know I get along well with Libra suns, but just for mine, I don't really know. Maybe you can give me the interpretation of what I am. Like here, so I'm an Aries sun. I am a Gemini rising.
Okay.
And a Scorpio moon. What does this mean? What does this mean?
Aries sun is someone who is an initiator.
Okay.
You're very good about taking action.
Okay.
But sometimes you could be hot-headed.
That's true.
Then
Really?
Yes.
Are you hot-headed?
But
I can be
you can be
sometimes.
hot-headed, but Aries gets over things easily. Like, you're not a grudge-holding kind of person. Like, something will maybe upset you, but you're able to let go easily as well.
Okay.
So that's the benefit. Scorpio moon is really a deep, deep emotional part, because the moon is connected to your emotion. And Scorpio is a water sign. It's one of the you feel things really deeply.
I do.
You might be a bit secretive about your emotions and only reveal them to someone who has earned your trust.
Holy hell, this is interesting. Okay.
And also, Scorpio is also the sign of transformation. So maybe you have a lot of deep feelings about a journey you're going on and bettering yourself and transforming yourself. And you're also able to let go of past versions of yourself that don't serve you anymore. So that's a good thing. And Gemini rising is the rising is how people see you.
Oh, really?
So that means people see you as someone who is really good at communicating, someone who is upbeat and friendly. Maybe you have like some jokes in you. And
a lot of jokes.
What else? On the
Many of them are
downside,
not
people
good.
could see you as being two-faced in some ways, because Gemini have a tendency to have split personalities.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
sometimes maybe if they don't know
agree.
you well enough, they might
agree.
have that kind of vibe from
I
a
agree.
first impression.
I agree.
You agree with this?
I
Interesting. No, but actually, there's a lot there that actually makes sense. Oh, holy hell, I feel so bad now. I feel like, oh my God.
I feel like you need to prepare for this session.
Exposed you.
Yeah, I
I
feel
came
so
to be interviewed, but you're the one exposed.
Clearly, the turns have tabled. Sam, the turns have tabled. Wow. Sam, do you wanna I don't think Sam knows his rising and
The turns are, I don't know anything. I'm sorry. I'm not as into the stars as Afam is, apparently. I keep learning every time we have, because the last time with Afam, we had a short
Yeah, Alfayo also loves astrology.
Exactly.
We're a
So I
lot
keep
of people
learning.
in Kipepeo like astrology.
Wait, last astrology thing. Why can't I get along with Geminis and Virgos? I have trouble with both of those signs.
Sun signs.
Yeah,
but it could also be like when we look at astrology, we have to look at all of the personal planet placements. So what we've been talking now are the big three, which are the most influential.
Okay.
But we also have planets like Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. So it's hard to know the synastry between two people without looking at the complete birth chart, because from a first stance, I would say Gemini, you should get along because you have a Gemini rising. But then also with your Aries and your Scorpio is very deep and Gemini is more like lighthearted. So maybe there is a disconnect between that. And Virgo is a sign that is very detail oriented and organized and structured. Okay. And they're the type of people who will like give you a feedback and they say it with all love, but you could take it the wrong way. You know, like maybe they're a bit critical, but they do it because they want the best for you to improve. And also they tend to be self-critical as well. So maybe that one.
How did you learn all this?
Yeah.
I don't know. I told you, I just like learning things. I just, I had a birth chart reading. Actually, it was in the pandemic. And then I was like, okay, this is cool. And I just read a book or two about it. And yeah.
So, I mean, I guess speaking about studying, Sam, this is a better segue. I'm really learning in segues now. Well, but speaking about learning things, teaching yourself, what drew you to theater? Like, why theater? Like,
yeah. So I was attracted to theater from a really young age. What happened was I had a babysitter who was in high school and it was the high school production of Oklahoma. I don't know if you know that musical. So I think I was about 3 or 4 years old when she was playing Lori, the main character. And then she had told me about it. I was like, Mom, we have to go. And we went. And the story goes is my mom was like, oh, how are you doing? Do you like it? And you're like, my reaction was, I love it. I want to do that. Like, yeah. So from a young age, but I grew up like my parents are not musicians or anything, but they're big music lovers. Like I grew up with a lot of music in the house, a lot of musical theater, especially. I remember dancing with my mom in the living room all the time, especially to The King and I.
Nice.
Like we just had like a culture of that. And
where did you grow up?
I grew up in upstate New York.
Oh, okay. You mentioned in upstate New York.
So even when I got older, we used to go to see shows on Broadway. And I did my first show when I was, how old was I in 5th grade? I think I was about 11, 10.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was in a Shakespeare play for my first show.
Has the culture of New York, upstate New York, shaped your your current creativity? Is there something that you've maintained, that you've kept?
I think
because you're here in Africa and it's very different from...
Of course. Yeah. I really didn't like growing up in the place. It's a beautiful nature environment, but I didn't
You never think of New York and nature together.
Because it's upstate. It's not the city. It's about a 3-hour drive from New York City. It's near Albany. So the place I grew up is very rural. There is a lot of farms, a lot of cows, a lot of apple orchards, things like that. And I knew I always wanted to be in an environment with more people. Like I'm more of a city person, actually. And for me, I didn't like that it was a really non-diverse environment. Like you could count the number of Black people in our school, and there was this thing of like this neighboring city that that is where the Black people live. It was like almost like it felt segregated in some way. And the only Black kids who would be going to my school, most of them they took from the other school because they were bad kids. I'm doing quotes. So there was just a lot of lack of integrating different types of people together. And me, I really wanted to just be in a place where not everyone had the same upbringing or looked like me, or I think it's more interesting. Like I love learning about different cultures and things like that. So I knew I wasn't going to stay in upstate New York for long.
That's interesting because you said that your thing is art and there's the
performing arts and social justice.
Yes, right. So I'm guessing, so as you're growing up, those two grew together. Is it which came first, the chicken or the egg? Or
it's funny, like at some point I
egg.
almost didn't do theater in university. It was actually my dad who was like, you love it so much, you should do, because I also went for international studies. So I have 2 bachelors.
Yeah.
So international studies, I did peace and conflict studies, because I've always been a really big pacifist. I don't believe in war and armies. Like all of that makes me feel no. And I did African studies, and then my other degree in performing arts and social justice with the focus in theater. But at first I was just going to do international studies. And then I went to the University of San Francisco and found out about this program where it's not just about, okay, we can do plays and act on stage, but actually using theater to talk about issues going on in the world. And that really excited me. And then my dad encouraged me, you really love theater. You can do both of them. There's space. You can do 2 bachelors at the same time simultaneously. So yeah, that's how it happened.
Oh,
That's
where did you do those?
University of San Francisco.
So
I went all the way across the country. I was like, I don't want to be in upstate New York. Shoo, 6-hour plane.
Oh, wow.
Bro, so I mean, a bit of backstory on myself. Like I studied in Syracuse.
Oh yeah. I think we talked about this before. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's the weather was like a
you
huge
have this
culture shock.
snow
for me.
tunnels there that you go through, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Holy
Yikes.
hell, man!
Yeesh.
I was not ready. But it was a really like pretty place. Like I liked the scenery, the nature, and everything. But that's cool. So like you mentioned, you've grown up all your early life in the West. When did you move? Like how did you move
How'd you
to
get
East
here?
Africa? Like how did you? Well, obviously. Oh, that's a thing that used to happen to me when I used to go to America. Like some older white people would ask, "How did you get here?" Like, and I was like, by plane. And
What are
then,
they asking? Are they asking how did you get here? As
Yeah,
in
how?
What
What
the
brought you
decision
here?
or
No,
Like-
what
the
means?
actual means?
Yeah,
Are you
and I'm
kidding?
like,
How would-
No.
I swear, like people
Did
ask
you
me
walk,
crazy
Maija?
questions
Did you
like
walk?
that.
Did you walk? Did you use
I
a?
teleported. I did. Like in Harry Potter.
Oof.
Yeah, for me, what happened was when I was in University of San Francisco, I've always been someone who loves traveling. So every opportunity to travel, I was like, sign me up.
Okay.
So there was this really great study abroad program called the Sarlo Scholars, which was
The what scholars?
Sarlo Scholars.
Sarlo,
I
okay.
think it's just at USF.
Okay.
But basically, they had a program where you would do a semester of classes about sustainable development, and then another class where we had like reading about the country we're going to.
Yeah.
Then come do an internship, and then go back and have like a reflection seminar about the experience. So in this, you could go to India, Uganda, or Bolivia. And
okay.
because I was doing African studies, I decided, of course, to go to Uganda.
Yeah.
And it was one of the only study abroad programs which was fully funded. Like, I didn't have to pay for anything. So that was
that's
really
cool.
good.
That's
My
nice.
flights, my accommodation, it was like, it was quite intense. I think there were 15 of us in total who were chosen, 5 for each of the countries. So it had like quite a rigorous application process. I got selected. And yeah, then I went to Uganda in 2013.
And you stayed.
No, actually, I went back to university. I had 2 more years to finish.
Okay.
So then I went back for a semester. And then I studied abroad again in Dar es Salaam. And that's where I was for 6 months.
It's very interesting from an African perspective hearing someone say they studied abroad and the abroad is
Oh,
Dar es
it's here.
the abroad
But
is
it was
here.
so
I get what you mean.
interesting. Like, we were supposed to study at the University of Dar, but they had some
Okay.
issues with strikes at the time. So our study abroad was quite not the typical one. We were studying at this school called Loyola. It's in a place called Mabibo. So we were having like a tutor teaching our classes instead of going in the university because the scheduling, again, like it was off for our semester. And then we were doing we had volunteer placements. So I was working at a place called Baba Watoto, which is a youth center in Mburahati Kwajongo. And they mostly do like acrobatics, dance, music. They have a women's group who is doing sewing, different things like in the creative sector. So yeah. I was spending a lot
cool.
of time there.
That's cool.
Okay, wait, is this around the same time? Because I saw you are like affiliated with Mashirika. Is it Mashirika?
Yeah, that comes later.
Oh,
so
that comes
I
later.
had like a back and forth. So first I went to Uganda 2013 for like 3 months, came back. Then I went to Dar es Salaam, 6 months, came back. Then I finished my last year of university. And then my advisor, he's a very amazing man called Roberto Varela. From Argentina, and his whole thing is about theater for healing.
For healing?
Yeah, for healing, like post-violence healing through theater, getting justice, like working a lot with migrant workers, things like that as well. So yeah, basically performing arts and social justice themes. So he knew someone called Hope Azeda, who has a theater company in Rwanda called Mashirika. And then he just wrote an email introducing us. And then she's like, yeah, you should come here. We're starting a festival called Ubuntu Arts Festival, and we need people to help with it. So yeah, then I finished university and I moved to Rwanda like, I think a month or so within finishing. Yeah.
Crazy. Bro, you've been to more places in East Africa than I have. And I'm born here.
Oh, man.
The only one I haven't is Burundi. Burundi is on the list. So.
I think I've only been to Tanzania, maybe.
I think I've been to Uganda.
Yeah, you have to come to Uganda.
Uganda is cool. I was there, but I was young. Went for like a family
in Uganda?
Thing. Yeah.
Oh, for real?
That's cool. Fun.
So now it must be fun because you're based there. That's like, so you live, that's home.
Yes, now so basically I went to work in Rwanda from 2015 to 2017.
Yeah.
I loved the experience. It's, the festival still exists. Actually, I think it's happening in like 2 weeks or so.
Okay.
And then for me, I just felt like Kigali is such a small place. And I was like, I think I've got my fill of it, you know? There is just that feeling of, it's time to go to a new one.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it and I loved Uganda. I had friends there. So I was like, let me move to Uganda. And I've been there since, besides a perhaps chance when I got stuck in Kenya during lockdown.
Oh, you got stuck here. Is that's around the time? Well, a little bit after that is when we met. When you came with GNL Zamba.
Yes, that was like the next year. So I got locked down. Like, I have a friend called Puput. She's actually the one who did our logo. She's an amazing visual artist.
I love your logo,
it's
by
so
the way.
beautiful. Like, because Kipepeo was born when we were in lockdown together. That's why I was just like, I think I'm going to start a company and I need a logo. Can you help me?
Is purple your favorite color?
I love I don't know. I love colors. Today I'm wearing black, but I'm normally very
colorful,
vibrant colors. So yeah, I think I didn't really tell her. She just kind of picked the colors and they were the right ones because it has like pink, turquoise, purple, a little bit of green. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, so now that we're on Kipepeo, so this comes up as a thing like when you're in Uganda now, right? Or when does this come?
Kipepeo is born in Watamu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In Watamu,
so
okay.
What happened basically, let me give you the story. It's a funny one. So Puput came to Kampala and she had an exhibition, a visual exhibition. And unfortunately, they stole her phone that night after the exhibition, and it had her Safaricom line M-Pesa, and we're like, we need to get that money. What do we do? So she's like, I think you can come with me to Nairobi and we SIM swap. And we actually even found a guy who was like posting. There is a Kampala expats group. People are always posting random things. And someone had been like, oh, free ride to Nairobi for anyone who can stay awake and keep me company. Yeah. It was just like, you know, the signs that come in your life. You're like, obviously, we're supposed to go to Kenya. There's a free ride. She needs to do a SIM swap. It's all like, it's obvious.
Yeah.
So we come and...
Wait, when is this? What year
this was March, whatever, because the first case was like March 19th, something like that. This was like March 16, 17, like the few days before.
Okay.
Yeah, it was that weekend. We arrived, we enjoyed a bit, SIM swap, and as we were about to get a bus to go back to Uganda, there was a lot of traffic, like is very common in Nairobi. We end up missing the bus, and then we're seeing on the news that the border is closed. And I have a friend who works in immigration, so I write to her, is it true they are closing the border because of COVID? Because we had heard like a day or two before the first COVID case has been announced. Yeah. And my friend tells me, yeah, the border is closed now. So we're like, what are we going to do? My house in my life is in Uganda. But luckily my friend, she had worked before in Watamu. So we were like, there started being the rumors of they're going to do county lockdowns. So we're like, are we really going to lock down in Nairobi? Like, and have to get an Airbnb or something for who knows how long and be like in an apartment in a box? No, let's go to coast. Let's go to Watamu. And I think we got there like a day or two before they closed the county borders. So then we were stuck in Kilifi County for 6 months.
For 6 whole months.
Yeah, and it
Sounds
was such a blessing, though.
Yeah.
It was when I talk about my lockdown stories with other friends, I think we really had one of the best times in lockdown, to be honest. Yeah.
And so this is around the time now when Kipepeo is born.
Yes. I think lockdown started end of March. Kipepeo was born around August, September.
So what led to Kipepeo actually being born?
One thing that happened was, I had managed an artist before, and then she's called Sandra Nankoma. She had plans to move to France because she was engaged and was planning to get married. So we kind of parted ways because of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and now she's happily married, doing her music in France.
Yeah.
And then when it was the lockdown, there's a mentor of mine. He's called Jess White, and he has an agency called Akum Agency. So Jess is from Australia, but he works in South Africa, and he works with amazing artists like Sampa the Great, Msaki, like amazing
cool.
artists. So when it got to the time where everyone didn't know what they're doing, like they're at home, Jess made like a post. I want to do some mentoring sessions for people because I'm bored and I would like to do it. So yeah, I took him up on the offer, and I think we had about 4 different sessions. It was like once a week for a month or something on Zoom. And there were only a few of us in it. I think maybe like 4 or 5 of us who were part of this group. And then just through that process of talking with him, I was like, you know what? I think I can also have an agency, because when I thought about it, working freelance, you don't have so many of the things that can allow you to access, like to get people to want to work with you for events like we just had, or to be able to apply for funding, or, it just, things work better when you have a registered company. And it just made sense. Everything started to click into place. So I was with my good friend. I was running the idea by her, and she's been an artist for years. So she was super supportive and like, you should definitely do it. She helped me make the logo. We did like our first very small event in Watamu in like the backyard of one of the villas we were staying. And that's just how it started.
Interesting. So who was your first like artist?
So as Kipepeo. Yeah, we first the first artist we were working with was Akoth Jumadi. Yes. And then after some time, Bakhita was the next one to join.
Yeah. And those decisions were based off of your taste in music.
Yeah, like, for Akoth, I had known her. She had been in Uganda at some point, so we knew each other a bit. And then I remember she had released one single, Jangolo, then the next one was Aluworo. And then when she was releasing that, I was asking her, I really like your music. Like, are you working with anyone? And then, we just made like, she came down to coast. At that time, like we had stayed at one place, but then they opened the county borders and people were coming from Nairobi. So they started increasing the rent. So we got another place, which was at the Turtle Bay Villas. And we had an extra bedroom. So I was like, listen, we have like an extra bedroom. Come down here. We make like our own DIY kind of residency just to like get to know each other and see. So I think she came for, was it like 2 weeks or so? Yeah. And then that's,
Wait. So just to go back, what type of music do you listen to actually?
My music is so diverse. I'm telling you, like, so I can listen. Firstly, I think the majority of the music I listen to is not in languages I understand. Like about 80% is probably not in English, or I speak Swahili like halfway. So like 80% is not in English or Swahili, I would say. I listen to a lot. Like I love, like at my soul, I have a really big love of electronic music. I used to be a big raver when I was in university, go to underground parties and all of that. So I have a big love for like Afro house, techno, drum and bass, all of that kind
Drum
of
and
vibe. Yeah,
bass,
I like drum and bass. We used to go to so many really cool shows.
Nice.
And yeah, my taste in electronic music is quite broad.
Okay.
Then I also really love live music. So
Live music,
especially like different types of African music, whether like I love benga, I love tarab, I love listening to just like all these artists from Mali with the beautiful choras. I love Afro beats. I love what else? Then I have like the side of me that loves like the soul and the acoustic and the jazz and bluesy. Like I said, my parents were big music lovers, so at home I have all of their old vinyls.
Yeah.
So I have a big love for also the people who were famous in when I was in high school, I had an obsession with the Woodstock Festival.
Yes.
So I love like Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, Earth, Wind and Fire, that kind of vibe as well. Grateful Dead. I had an obsession with the Beatles at some point. Like
That's one band I haven't gotten into.
I could talk music
I haven't
for
gotten
days.
into the Beatles.
Yeah, okay. Me neither. I haven't really gotten too deep into the Beatles as well.
I have all of the CDs when they remastered it.
What should I go to first?
For the albums of the Beatles, which is my favorite. I love White Album is like the most distorted and weird. I really love Abbey Road and I really love Yellow Submarine because Yellow Submarine is just a concept album and I love concept albums because it takes you to a different universe. Yeah.
So for you, when you listen to music, it's more about, because you said you listen to a lot of music that you don't even understand like the words. It's more about the vibe. It's more about how it makes you feel.
Actually, I was reading there are people who listen to the lyrics first and people who listen to like the beat and the production first. And me, I'm like totally beat production, the vocal quality, like the timbre of the voice they use. Because there are songs I love, but I can't tell you the lyrics like at all.
To save, no, I'm the exact same. Because when I listen to music, what I'm listening for is just the vibe. Like words come so like I need to really concentrate to listen to like lyrics.
So interesting.
Stuff. Yeah. Sam is the opposite. Because Sam for you would say lyrics, right?
It depends. If I'm listening to like really lyrical stuff, it's the words that. It's fascinating though.
Like it's why it may struggle. Like even like I don't know. Like listening to Kendrick's last album, I struggle because it's like I can't take in all that information.
Too many words.
I can't.
Too much info.
Yeah, I can't. I usually struggle, and sometimes I'm like, I need to get into more lyrical.
That's
content.
why you stick to Rage and
but it means something. Like if you listen to the beat and the production more, it means you're more of a creative person who is go with the flow. Like is it the type B personality? If you listen to the lyrics more, you need more of like a direction of like what you're supposed to be understanding. Yeah. Like you're more of a specific and concrete type of like person. Yeah.
Interesting.
Concrete.
I think what?
I'm concrete.
You're concrete.
I'm a concrete
and I'm more
person.
flowy and creative.
We're flowing.
Yeah. Thank you, Sam. Listen, this side of
Stop
the
looking down on me.
all.
Relax.
We need all types of people in the world.
exactly.
There's no looking down.
Yeah, we do, but look at him. Look at the eyes he's giving me. It's like, oh, you peasant.
Okay,
look at you.
so you have Bakhita, you have Akoth Jumadi. How does your roster, expand? Like into like the likes of Groovy Jo, like what?
Groovy, we met in the Perform Music Incubator under MDQ. Shout out to Muthoni Drama Queen if you're ever gonna listen.
Yeah.
So we were in cohort 3 together in 2021. And the way they structure Perform is like there are different artists, there are different managers, producers, sound engineers, event managers, and publicists. So they kind of put you in your little group. So there is like one of each role in the group and you work as a team on the different tasks.
Yeah.
So I was put in the group with Groovy as our artist. And that's how we met. And it was very different. At first, I had this, like some doubt because her music is very different from other artists I'm working with because she's mostly known for hip hop and
Shrap
and But the thing that I think really solidified our working relationship is Groovy is all about women in the front and like so strong about that.
Yeah.
And I totally feel the same way. Hence why I was the one with the panel on Saturday about the gender parity.
Yeah.
Because I really prioritize like working majority with women or the men who get it at least. Like if you're a man in the company, you have gone through a vetting process. But even the women though, and even the non-binary people, everyone has to pass that, a test of good heart and good spirit, I guess I can say. But for Groovy, we really connected on that level of just being about uplifting women in music. And at that time, she had also expressed to me, I'm really known as a rapper, but I don't want to be like boxed in that way. I want to experiment with different types of sounds. I want to do things that are more like Afro. I want to do things that are more dancehall. I want to, not just be known as the shrapper. So I really also liked that because I think it's really beautiful to be able to define who you are as an artist and not just like let people label you as like you have to be only making this heavy hip hop music. Like now she has released Pressure, which is her sophomore project. And it has some songs that really show the vulnerable side of her, and she's singing, and it has some R&B, Afro, Alte kind of vibes. And actually those are the songs people are streaming the most, like numbers don't lie. So it just shows that even if people have their mind made up about you and who you are as an artist, you can always surprise them. And if they love you, they're going to ride with you.
Yeah. And I mean, I like, so you guys are a booking agency /
management
agency. So I don't know if this is too much to go into. So how does that work with like you and ADF? Like how what's the relationship structure?
So ADF is a label.
Okay.
So what the label does is basically work on the releases, like coordinating. Okay, we're working with these producers. Groovy goes to studio. Here, the demos. Okay, this should go on this tape. Kind of like organizing what she has recorded. They work on music videos to promote the tracks. They work on like the cover art, distribution. They handle it, things like that. Now for management, our job is to make sure the relationship between Groovy and the label works well, basically. We're there to protect our client, which is the artist, to make sure things are going according to plans, to kind of, if there's any issue we need to sort, like we're here to work on that, building strategies, because we also have things like, Alfayo is our PR guy. So like, how do we incorporate the PR into the overall rollout? We also do the bookings. We do... Just basically, we're there to be an ear for the artists if they need like any advice, and just to guide them to like make the best informed decisions that they can.
Because like I haven't really talked to too many booking agents, and for me personally, I've really just been in the more creative side of the industry, which is why I was really pushing to have you on here. What would you say is a portion of the music industry in Kenya that really needs like more attention? I don't know if that makes sense.
What area in the music industry needs more attention?
Because I know a lot of people don't do a lot of artist development anymore and stuff like that.
I love artist development. It's like the hardest phase, but it just feels the nicest when you can build someone like... For example, someone like Udulele, we started working with him when he had 30 monthly Spotify listeners. Now he has over 20,000.
Wow.
Like something like that is so exciting to see. So it's like a startup with any company where you grow fast, and then it's about sustaining what you're growing. But for me, in the Kenyan industry, I think one challenge is people, especially financially, everyone is really dependent on the live sector, which is like performances, things like that. And it becomes very challenging. One, things like the pandemic, corona, like restrictions, that's a big challenge that we had to overcome. And then there is also just touring constantly can make you get so exhausted. And if that's your main source of income, you can't really afford to take a break.
Yeah.
So me, I'm interested now. I've been really interested in learning more about the publishing sector. And it's something I'm still, I called like this year, the year I'm going to know everything about publishing.
Oh man, the publishing monster.
Because publishing has a lot of sources of passive income. And I think as artists, we need those things to be granted time to also be making money where we don't have to be constantly on the road or constantly in the studio or things like that.
Yeah.
There has to be ways that sustain our careers that allow us to live a beautiful life and not feel like we're always on the edge of burnout.
So what resources do you use to gather this information?
Well, I did a master's last year, so I learned a lot through that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I studied at the International Music Business School, but I did an online program.
Yeah.
So I did a master's in music business innovation. So in that I think there were 5 different classes we took. And some of them are like fully online, you do at your own pace. One is called the Advanced Principles. So this is breaking down the music sector into, there's the main categories of publishing, recording, live, and then like brands. Because now a lot of musicians are getting brand endorsement deals, working with different companies and things like that. So that has become more important in the recent years than it was in the past. So we did like a breakdown of like everything that happens, the different roles in each of the sectors. And then there was another class about I think it was called what? History? Modern history? Something? No, it was the full history. I don't remember the name, but it was basically like breaking down from the beginning of time why music has existed and when the music business actually existed, which was because of the operas in Venice.
That's what I did. I didn't even know that.
I was interested.
The prima donnas, those are our artists of now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh wow, I had a question, but I think I've forgotten it.
While you think about that question, because publishing in this country, like, how do people even receive their royalties and
that's the whole issue.
Like,
that's where we are. So
do you have to like circumvent our collecting societies?
Yes, there are ways because they're called CMOs, Collective Management Organizations. So we have 3 here in Kenya, which are all under Kikobo. So there is CAMP, Kenya Association of Music Producers, PRISC, Performing Rights Society of Kenya, and what is the last one?
MCSK?
Yeah, MCSK,
the
Music Copyright Society of Kenya.
The legendary one.
The legendary MCSK.
So it's always really upsetting. We see these guys constantly being shut down for things. Even I saw the one, I don't even remember the names or what, but someone who was one time removed from one because of embezzlement of funds has been appointed again as CEO of another. It's like, didn't we learn the first time?
No, we didn't. Not at all, clearly.
So actually, you don't have to register to the CMO from your home territory. There is no law that says that you're allowed to register to any CMO that you can get
that solves that then.
So for our artists, we work with a company called Song Trust, which is a publishing admin company. And through that, we have affiliation with the Irish Performing Rights Society. Yeah.
Okay. So I remember my question. So you said you're just learning. You're still, we're all learning. So how do you figure it out as you go? Are you really just trying to see whatever works, or is there a blueprint, I guess, that you're following step by step?
I'm definitely not someone who likes to follow things plan by plan. I love to, because I am a creative in my own way, and I love the process of figuring out how I want to do something, because I believe it's really about how you do things, not just your end results. I really, truly believe in that. So for me, I love doing things in a unique way. But like I said, I love learning. So I'm really someone who researches a lot. The pandemic, one of the great things it did for us is open a lot of things that used to be, I have to be in London, or I have to be in New York, or I have to be here to attend this thing. Now, everything almost is online. So I attend so many online seminars and workshops and conferences and things like that. I think my curiosity is really one of the things that helps me to like, I love to learn, I love to talk to people and network and find out what people are doing and how maybe there is an alignment somewhere. So yeah, for me, I do a lot of learning through attending online things. And like I said, the masters and just like short courses. Like I'm someone like I finish a master's, I'm like, okay, now what I'm going to learn now.
What are you going to learn
Yeah,
now?
and of course, I think we have great resources online. Like even YouTube, there are some YouTubers who, especially I find for music marketing, I do watch a lot of YouTubers.
Oh, put us on. Which YouTubers are you
There's
watching?
There's a lot of
I think
information
my
on
favorite
YouTube.
one is called Amber Horgsburg. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll send you the link.
Send
I
me
believe
the
she's
link.
from Australia or New Zealand, one of those.
Okay.
There's another guy called Ari's Take. He's good.
Uh-huh.
Even like I just go to like certain, like for example, even on the like the Spotify YouTube page, they have a lot of information on Song Trust for music publishing. They have a lot of great resources on their website. Another thing is I'm a member of the Music Managers Forum in the UK. So I get access to a lot of things through that. It's like the membership is, I think, £70 or something a year and totally worth it. Like I attend so many events through there. I get access to different reports and things. And they have a newsletter that goes out every Friday, just like, here, what's happening that you should know about. So I think the best thing when you're in this industry is you have to really just be eager to learn and to find out what other people are doing and not follow a blueprint, but kind of piece together things and make your own path.
Yeah. So if you're an artist, you're upcoming, and I mean, some of them will be listening to this podcast. How should you position yourself to monetize yourself as much as you can? So we have things like Song Trust, right? What else? So and that covers the publishing. How do we monetize from the masters? How do we, what's your experience, because I know like with the music industry, like there's so many different ways to monetize, but the information on that sometimes is, well, it's there, but like not many people know it.
I think, okay, for ways to monetize, one, you have to choose what things you want to prioritize and start with those instead of trying to do everything all at once. So one thing is like, what social medias platforms are you going to prioritize? Are you like a really big YouTuber? Do you love TikTok? Are you like more of a Twitter person? Like think about that. Me, I think it's always good to have your own website.
Okay.
And like for our artists, some of them have their own, some of them we have a page on our website, so use that as their website basically. And then another thing is when you're starting out, you need to just be open to things, but also vet people properly, because some people could be trying to prey on you because you're new in the industry and maybe you don't know everything. So I would definitely advocate for like, if someone gives you a contract, you better have a lawyer read it. You don't just sign it
100%.
away.
Yeah.
Things like that, like educating yourself on information that is out there. And what other monetization things? Yeah, it's more about just knowing like what kind of things you want to be monetizing as well, because some people do really good at growing their YouTube and then they monetize with the ads. Some people make amazing merch and people buy out their merch. Like you just have to, that's why I'm saying I'm not a fan of blueprints or like follow this and you'll be successful kind of models. It's really dependent on what is special to you, what skills and talents do you have, what makes you unique. The unique value proposition is a big one. Like, why would I want to listen to your music and not this person's? It's about the brand as well. It's not about just you're talented, you sing well, you can write a beautiful song. But what about your personality that wants to drive me in? It's a whole experience of getting to know you.
Yeah.
In terms of monetization, as a new artist, do you think, because there's a culture here, and let me just use the Kenyan industry, where people tend to want to leverage an artist being new, opportunity sort of for value. So they'll say, okay, I can give you more opportunity, but then I won't pay you as much, or I won't credit you, or things like that. What do you think? How do you think a new artist should move?
People who say, I'm going to give you less money because I'm giving you opportunity. Okay. There's two ways to look at it. One, you have to know your value as an artist. And I'm actually not a big fan of having a rate card per se, but I'm a big fan of knowing like, this is about what I charge, but also let me look at the whole picture. Because I think also people get caught up in like money and numbers, and I get it. Nairobi is a hustle. The city is getting more and more expensive. People are going to protest these new finance, all of that.
Yeah.
So I totally get it from that standpoint. But I think that sometimes we get so caught up in numbers, and it's also the same thing artists are crying out to people who want to work with them. Like when people say, oh, you don't have enough followers and stuff, it's all a numbers thing. And like, I studied art. I didn't study math. So I want more besides just numbers. Can we please look at things just besides how many followers someone has or just how many streams this song has gotten? Because popularity doesn't correlate directly with value for me. Like, that's why I work a lot with niche and alternative artists, because maybe the numbers are not the biggest, but the value that they provide and the impact that they have is much more than like a bubblegum mainstream artist kind of song, you know?
Yeah.
So I understand where some of the people are coming from, because especially when you're working with places where it's like the marketing person, they're really focused on like, okay, how can I have these numbers and convert it to sales? A very business mindset. So I understand that. And they're like, oh, you don't have those numbers, so we're giving you an opportunity.
Yeah.
However, also, you're relying on this artist to bring in clients, and it's kind of like outsourcing part of your work. So you should pay them what they're worth. And people always forget, like, an artist is not about the 2 hours you see them on stage. It's about the 10 years they have worked on their craft.
Yeah.
They have studied.
Yeah.
They have rehearsed.
Yeah.
They have written songs, recorded music. Like, you're paying for that experience and that journey. That's
people just
why,
don't see that.
Yes, and people think, oh, it's so simple. You just show up and go and sing and play your guitar. Yeah, but how am I going to play those songs if I hadn't written them last year, if I hadn't thought of the idea 2 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's more about having an understanding of how we can work together. Because we all, of course, at the end of the day, have to eat, have to get the money in. And it's not like we want people to pay us so much that they go bankrupt. But how can we work together to grow the pie? And then everyone gets their fair share. I think that's it. And if money is not something you can give me cold card cash or M-Pesa, what can you provide to me instead? What can you supplement with if your budget is a bit low? Can you, like, sometimes we go on tour and they're like, okay, our money is not so good, but I can give you accommodation for the nights. You know, that's something I would have had to spend on. At least if you give me accommodation, I can kind of see, okay, we can decrease the fee a bit, things like that. So I think a holistic understanding of the value, and that we're working together to grow the pie and all eat.
So are you very involved in the brands of all the artists under your roster? How involved are you in
I am. We have meetings every week.
Okay. So to artists listening to this, how important is establishing your brand? And I guess a second question to that is, when you are in these meetings, is it always to position them in the best way to have, like, you know, brand deals with like corporates and all that type of stuff? Or do you just say, fuck that, let's focus on creating your brand and then we'll figure out what corporates can fit into that? Or do you model it the other way around, if that makes sense?
Yeah. For brand, I always like to say, when you're thinking about your brand, you're creating a universe, a utopia that exists for you and where you feel comfortable. So you get to decide the rules of your universe. Like in my universe, women are on top and all of the men are just pushed to the side, and we're all listening to dope music and having a good time. That would be like Groovy Jo. In my universe, we're talking about mental health and we're prioritizing the healing of the queer community and uplifting women who have gone through horrible situations and working on bettering ourselves. That would be Bakhita's brand. You see, so for me, a brand is like creating that universe and your own rules and your own way of how you would like the world to work. So it's kind of like me, I don't believe in God, but it's like you are a God and you create the universe.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it. And I think it's more fun if you see it that way than a way of like, I have to have something that I can communicate.
Yeah.
It's like, it has to come from a place of authenticity of what feels true to you. And literally, like, if the world was yours, how would it operate? How would you want things to be run? Like, this is your chance to like create a space for people to really feel your energy of how you would do things. So yeah, that's what I think about that. For the second part of the question, I think it always has to come from you creating a brand and then finding the people who fit with your brand rather than the other way around. Because if you're just creating your brand to try to fit in with what the corporates want, you're going to lose yourself. You're not going to feel like it's really you. You're going to feel like you're selling out. It's going to be really hard to, if you have created something, it's very easy to know like how I can adapt it in this way, or like what the next step is for that brand. But if you're creating someone with someone else in mind for someone else, then you might be confused about how to push the brand because you're not really sure. Oh, I started creating it this way, but then these guys changed their tune, so now I have to go that way. It's kind of like you're being pushed around in the stream and the rocks are beating you. You want to be flowing in the river, like floating down. It's paradise.
It's chill.
You don't want to be in the wastewater rapids.
All vibes, yes.
No, I mean, I just ask because like in Kenya, I feel like the biggest way people make money is through either gigs or
endorsements.
Brand endorsements. Yeah, for sure.
And so it's a big thing for upcoming artists, I suppose, But yeah, it's usually such a fine balance, man. But
no one really knows what they're doing, especially here. I still feel like the music industry in this area it's
so underdeveloped.
It's playing catch up, right? It's trying to play catch, which is interesting. Do you, as Kipepeo, do you market your music to Africa, or are you more global with how you try to present them?
We do both.
Okay.
Because so we have artists here in Kenya as well as in Uganda.
Yeah.
So we're based both countries. And different artists have different, it's really about what the artist is aspiring for, because some artists, they know that they have more audience. For example, I have an artist called Suzan Kerunen. Right now she's in Germany for a 1-month residency doing workshops. And she knows she has a lot of audience in Europe, So things like that. Of course, we have to focus on the export, one, just from a financial standpoint of there is more money to be made. But I think that it's very also important to have footprints in where you come from and to have a fan base from your hometown, because it's kind of like a red flag if you're an artist from some place and no one from that place knows you. It's kind of like you have lost your identity and betrayed your ancestors, So I think there has to be a balance. And it's also, I think that's why I loved when our artists collaborate with others as well. Like Liboi just had a very beautiful collaboration with a producer called Silva from South Africa. And for me, I'm very interested in not only taking our artists to Europe or places like that, but even like places like South Africa, places like going to West Africa, go to Nigeria. I don't know, at some point I was very interested in this South-South connection of especially like Brazil and South America, Colombia, those places with Africa, because we know the history of slave trade. A lot of Africans were stolen and taken there. And there is a lot of aspects of the culture that resonate with things that are here.
Yeah.
So
even the music is similar in some sense. Yeah.
So I think that, there is a way of exporting where it's not just being like a Eurocentric or North American-centric way, because we know these markets, like the American market is the biggest market. It's the hardest to break into. So instead, can we foster these types of collaborations of doing different Pan-African collaborations or South-South collaborations as well, but still having some roots in the place you come from?
Yeah. And I guess another question that's kind of similar to that is, what would you tell upcoming managers to focus on? Is it creating like real people, real fans, real engagement? Or, sometimes you get really caught up in the, I want to have 50,000 monthly listeners, streaming and all that type of stuff, because there are also huge aspects of the music industry. What do you focus on, like, for your artists? Like, do you model them more to like have fans they're mostly outside, or do you put a lot of attention onto building that streaming presence, the numbers and all that type of stuff?
I think you have to have a balance of both. And I think one thing I learned when I was studying was about it's called the customer empathy map.
Okay.
If you Google that, you can find
Customer
a template, I'm
empathy.
sure.
Okay.
So it's called the customer empathy map. And basically, you can do an exercise where you segment your different fans. So you have like the super fans, which are like the ones who are always commenting on your Instagram. You see them come to some of your shows. The ones who are like always reacting on your stories. Like those ones who are really in it and not afraid to engage with you and support you buying your things.
Yeah.
So you make a segment for those. Then maybe you make a segment for like the casual listener, someone who has found you on maybe like an editorial playlist and then decided they like your music and start following you. Maybe there is someone like that you would like to become a fan. So you make profiles of these and then be able to understand them. And like if you see this template, it has all type of things that they say, things that they feel, things that they hear, what their pain points are, what their opportunities for gaining are. And I really like this exercise because sometimes as artists, people forget that at the end of what you create, there is someone who is engaging with it. The creation process is so beautiful. Like that's why everyone says it's like creating your baby almost. Like there is such a beautiful, sometimes it's painstaking, sometimes it's inspirational, sometimes it gets slow and you're like, I just want this labor to be done. Like there's a different process for each thing you're creating. But once you have released the thing, there is also the process of seeing how people react and engage with it. And that's why it's good to create, but also think about who is the consumer of my product, who is the person who's going to be listening to this music, like because each artist has different fans, but also sometimes they overlap, and you can try to see like, oh, if I make this song, I think it will be similar to this artist, and I'll probably have similar fans. That's another thing you can look and try to see, like, this artist is maybe like 3 years ahead of me. I would like to be in their shoes. You know, what did they do to get there? But through this empathy map, you get to just like, it's like there's no right or wrong. It's about you understanding and being able to see the patterns and the behaviors of your fans. So maybe my fans, they love to drink 254 beers and they're all about going to the beer district every whatever day they have music, and they shop at, now they burned toy, but like, you know, like you kind of make a profile of them. They eat at Galetos, they do whatever, you know, and you can understand their behavior and the thing that's going to resonate with them. So I think that process is good. And also when you get to a point where you have fans you can recognize, that means you're really doing well, because you have people who are really supporting you. If you can be able, I've seen that face many times at my shows, that's always a good sign.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, I have one last question for me, at least. So what in the music industry, or what's an emerging like trend in the music industry that's of interest to you? And I know that's a very broad question. For me personally, I'll start, like, for me, it's just AI. And
I was going to say AI,
no,
actually.
I've stolen. Oh, no.
No, I have a very cool story about it.
Yeah, you could tell us.
So I told you Liboi has a new single with Silver called African Child.
Okay.
So we released it on June 16th, which was Day of the African Child, just to be so intentional.
Yeah.
And my roommate, she's called Lena. She's an AI whisperer. She knows a lot about AI.
AI whisperer.
Yes, that's what they call themselves. She's an AI whisperer.
Okay.
And she's been doing all kinds of cool stuff with AI.
Yeah.
And I know people are so afraid of AI in this industry, but I think it's like the way people were afraid of the streaming platforms at first and how it's going to end the physical sales. We still have physical sales, but now a lot is streaming. Yeah. But I think we have to work with AI and not be afraid of it, because otherwise you're going to just be left behind. Yeah. So what we had the beautiful idea of, Lena I don't even know which AI she's using. I know one is called Midjourney.
Oh, Midjourney, yeah.
And
DALL-E.
but there is some more. So basically, we gave her the song African Child. I gave her the song, I gave her the lyrics, I gave her the cover art. I told her a basic thing of what we want. And she created an AI visualizer for the song. And it's incredible looking. It's so trippy. It's on Liboi's Instagram if anyone wants to check it out. So
nice.
She had to use one AI software to generate an image based on a prompt. I know somewhere in there she put something Picasso style, like a whole prompt. And then after that, you feed it into another AI where it animates it and it's synced with the music.
That's so cool.
It's really, really dope. So for me, I'm just...
and you said this is on Liboi's Instagram.
Yeah, it's on Liboi's Instagram.
Check that.
She did it for because African Child, there's a radio edit of 3 minutes 30, and then the full song is like 6 minutes. So she did it for the whole 6-minute song. So when you just feel like you need something cool to watch, because you just see like different faces, bodies, they're all of African children, and they all look so regal and dignified and beautiful and strong and powerful. And that was like basically the message of the song, is like talking about all of the things that African children deserve because they're the new generation.
That's cool.
I see. It's this one,
Yes,
right? Oh
yeah.
my! Oh, well, I said this one, and this is an audio podcast. Well, it does look trippy. It looks very trippy.
It's
oh my
really-
god! I've seen these ones. It's the ones where like people change. Oh my god! You can literally watch this like forever. Oh, and it's one of those things that zooms out and
and the good thing is because Lena
I like
is actually a videographer, so she has a lot of knowledge. She does
Okay.
animation herself. She does 3D animation. She does post production, all the editing, all of the color grading. So she has so much knowledge already. So that's why one of the things, like, people are afraid of AI and stuff taking over, but it's not like a robot where it just like you press on and it does the thing. You have to have the knowledge of what to feed it. You have to have the knowledge of how to correct it. You have to know some of these things to even work with it. So
do you think we'll ever get to a point where the AI won't I don't know what they call it, where it has to like ingest a ton of data to output stuff? Do you think we'll ever reach a point where it doesn't have to be like that, where they can just generate things?
Yeah, because I think it also has me. I'm not a very good technology person. I lost that. My dad's a computer engineer. I didn't get that gene. But what I understand is there is something called machine learning, which is something where the more times something is fed information, it gets better at predicting the outcome. So in my understanding, it is possible that something like that will happen. But I think by the time it happens, we're going to have even more, like, technology is always evolving and there's always going to be something new happening. I'm waiting for when I have a dream of, like, our phones have cameras on the front. I don't know why we can't make holograms come out of those cameras yet. That's like one of the things that I've been
Apple
thinking
took
about.
a huge step towards that with the whole thing, though. We're working on it.
Okay.
With Apple, with what is it called?
The
things, the
and like I said, I'm not like a techie person. So if I'm
Vision
thinking of
Pro.
these things, there are things that the engineers and the people who are in these fields are thinking way more advanced than me, you know? So I think it's just we have to, we said we are listening to the music, we go with the flow. So that's how I feel about AI too. Like
Likewise.
nothing. Yeah, but the good thing is there is some more. I think the gray area is about the copyright, and I think it should just be a thing that artists can opt in or opt out. Like, I've been following Grimes has made a whole website where everyone can be able to use her voice in AI, and you just give her 50% of the royalty. So I think initiatives like this are very what we call like the early adapters of AI, being able to work with it. And I think it's something like, it's totally fine if an artist doesn't want their voice used for AI, and there should be like some type of way to either opt in or opt out, and then just following the copyright and making sure no one's IP is being infringed upon.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Let me see. I guess I've been thinking about what's the, this is completely left from that. What's the music scene like in Uganda?
Yes, that's a great question.
The music scene in Uganda, I think the Ugandan scene is more kind of like a divide between the mainstream and alternative. I feel like Kenya, there is more appreciation of like this alte kind of scene.
Yeah.
Uganda is still getting to that point. Of course, from the economics of it, it's much more profitable in Kenya. The economy is better here. I can definitely say that. Ugandans love to have a good time though, so there is always like just a lot of events happening. I think people are more like in a spirit to just work together on things and see how it works out, how it pans out in the long run. Yeah, I think it just comes down to Ugandans are super friendly and love to have a good time. So they're like, okay, let's do it, and then we'll figure it out as time goes on. Like I love there's a collective called the Buddha Stage, and I just love the way they work together. It's all just a bunch of artists supporting each other, doing events. There's a lot of things like that. There is that one. There is Bantu vibes. There is what else? There's been this event happening often called the Jameson in France. So there's a lot of like Ugandan artists like, okay, let's just do it together. There's a lot of
What
that.
would you say is like how is the genres? How are the genres in Uganda? Like what's like, is there like a big genre?
It's called Kidindali.
Kidindali?
Oh, wow.
Yes, so it's that that offbeat kind of thing.
Okay.
That's like
Do most people do
this is
that
like
genre?
the most like the Ugandan sound.
Okay.
Ugandans tend to love more, I think, can I generalize and say like more like they like things that are offbeat, not like 4-on-4 more. There's more of like dance hall, Chidindali. Yeah, there's more of that kind of vibe. There is a good hip hop scene.
Okay.
I work with an artist called GNL Zamba, and he has a media company called Baboon Forest Entertainment. They're doing a lot of really good stuff for the hip hop scene in Uganda, not only music, but fashion, art, all of those things. We also have the underground, very alternative scene, like which is a lot of people like Nyege Nyege, which came out of a group called Femme Electronique. So yeah, there is a lot of that as well. Like a lot of artists are coming in and out often. And then we have a lot of visiting artists, especially I would say right now MDQ and Blinky Bill were just there.
Yeah.
So Kenyan artists come through. South African artists come through, Nigerian artists come through. Yeah, it's quite vibrant. Yeah.
Interesting, because I mean, is it similar in like to Kenya in the sense that I feel like here there's so many different things going on, like there's so many different cliques of there's
a lot of imitation, I think,
and there's a lot of imitation, but there's the Gengeton guys, there's the sharp guys, there's the guys who do the more alternative stuff, there's the guys who want to do the hip hop R&B. Like I feel like we don't have like one. And then obviously there's the gospel and all that type of stuff. I don't know if we have like one sound that you can like
identify Kenyan music scene by.
Kenyan music. Is Uganda similar or is it different? I don't know.
Okay, in the mainstream, there is a sound that you can hear and be like, yeah, this is Ugandan music. There is kind of that. But not all songs fit into that, of course. But there is kind of like a sound. And I think one time someone told me it's actually because it comes from some of the traditional drumming patterns. That's why it's that offbeat kind of sound.
Yeah.
I will say I think Kenya is more cliquey than Uganda. I think Ugandans are more we just all want to have a good time and like celebrate together. I do sense that a bit, and I don't know if it's like a cultural thing, a historical thing, but yeah, there is just that kind of air. I think Ugandans are more, it's not that they're more patriotic or something, but they're just like more, let's just enjoy together.
Yeah.
They're more about the camaraderie and the friendliness and the enjoyment. Like enjoyment is I think it's a Bell advertisement, but yeah, like that's really the vibe of like, I think someone told me once, like a Ugandan is the type of person who like a concert is happening and they really have to attend. They will sell their phone and go to the concert. Like it's just like, I don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. Today I have to enjoy, you know?
Myself.
And there is pride in that enjoyment. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of lied by saying that was my last question. Wait, do you think the clickiness that's here, is that a problem? But I for me personally, I like the fact that we have a diverse like set of Like there's just so many different things going
That's
on.
True.
How do you feel about that? Like just the different cliques. Do you think we need to all like join together under one sound? Like, you know how like in West Africa there's
Not
Afrobeats?
necessarily. I think as long as certain sounds aren't being prioritized and others are being swept under the rug, I think that's where it can be a challenge of like, there is definitely a type of music that the mainstream is pushing, and there is so many other great types of music, but that's also like a reality of the world. Like it's always gonna be pop music. It's always gonna be like that commercial hip hop and R&B and those kind of sounds. But I think cliques can be done in healthy ways and in unhealthy ways. So it's about uplifting. That's why I like initiatives like your podcast talking about only 30% of music is Kenyan, or like Radio 254. Like it's about playing all types of Kenyan artists, not just the ones that are in the top 10 or whatever. And sometimes I get so sad. I see top 10 and it's not even any Kenyan artists, you know?
It's all Nigerian music.
Bro, we
and Tanzanian. Tanzania is also doing really well.
We recently saw, I don't know if you've seen the website Spotify generated for Afrobeats.
I saw it in the news. I haven't looked at the website itself, but I saw in their newsletter.
Do you know the fourth biggest consumer of Afrobeats is Nairobi?
As a city.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's insane. And it's just like, I don't know, I feel like we really support a lot of international acts as opposed to
it's always been the song here, I think, so we tend to support a lot of, say we again, like both of us are really, but we tend to support, we tend to support other markets more than we do our own. So it's unfortunately.
But I think it's okay to love sounds from other countries.
It's fine,
like I said, most of the music I listen to is not in English. I mean, of course I listen to American artists, but that's unavoidable. It's the biggest market anyway. Yeah. But still, I think some countries like Tanzania has a quota on how much has to be local music. So I've seen actually, I think it was Heart the Band had just said, I think we should have like either it was a day or a month or something where it's like only Kenyan music. So there are a lot of things that can be done to push this agenda. I know there's a really popular hashtag called playke music.
Playke.
Yeah. So I think it's just about getting people either by want or by a little bit of force. Sometimes a little bit of force is okay. If it's something like we must play at least 60% Kenyan music, you still have time to listen to your Afrobeats from Nigeria, whatever. But
we put ourselves in a bad position because are we going to have to change the name of the podcast?
We want to get ourselves to a position where the name of our podcast is obsolete because things are better.
The 100%
from 30%,
podcast.
at least let's go to 60. At least over half.
Let's go to 60. And I think that's a nice place to kind of like leave it. So to the end of our podcast, we usually play music. And, since you're our guest, what would you like to play?
I mean, obviously it has to be one of the songs of one of my artists.
Okay.
We could play something off of Groovy's new Pressure, or we could play African Child. Those are our latest releases.
Okay.
What mood are you in?
Let's go African.
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll do African Child, Liboi and Silva.
Okay, African Child, Liboi and Silva.
Kazaliwa rangi nyeusi
So that was African Child by Liboi and Silva. And thank you so much for coming through.
Asante.
I feel like I've learned so much, and you've just dropped so many gems, you know?
Yeah.
I told you I can talk a lot. You were nervous. I won't talk enough. I can talk a whole nother hour.
Best believe I'm going to do so much research on the YouTubers you mentioned and the, what do you call it? Customer empathy.
Customer empathy.
Yes.
Sounds like a good
I want
tool.
to learn about that as well.
It's fun. It's like tools for people who don't like to be too structured. Like me, I'm a type B emotional intelligence kind of person. So yeah, it's like an exercise in that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But listen, guys, that was our 30th episode. Very special episode.
Woohoo!
Can't believe we've done 30 episodes, Sam. 30 episodes, man. 30 episodes
That's
on
a
the
lot of
30%
episodes.
podcast.
Yeah.
And we had a guest.
Yes.
And who better than Maija?
And I'm 30. That's
And
what
she's
it's like.
30.
and
It's
she's
30.
30. It's brilliant.
But yeah, guys, you know where to find us. The 30% pod on everything.
Ooh, plug yourself.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
everything. And
Anything you
do.
want to plug.
Me, I drive traffic to my company page, not to my personal one. So Kipepeo Agency everywhere on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. I think we're opening a TikTok. Our website is also www.kipepeoagency.com. And please follow us, support our artists. You'll find all of them through our pages, so you should follow all of them as well.
Great.
All right. So guys, we'll see you on episode 31. Thank you.